Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm actually going to be looking at the Onexplayer Onexfly F1 Pro. It has the HX-370 chip inside. It has 32 gigs of RAM for this model and a 1 terabyte drive again on this model. And there is a sale going on right now through Onexplayer if you want to pick one of these up. I'll leave a link in the description. But today I'm going to be going through an overview of my experience with this device over the last couple weeks here. And I'll also do a size comparison with some other devices so you get a feel for what you could expect if you want to pick one of these up. And I'll also do a benchmark at the end so you can see what this looks like on Cyberpunk 2077 versus the Ally X. So stay tuned for that at the end. Now let's jump into it. Now this device has a really nice D-pad. It's different from the other Onexplayer devices that I've had that have more of a clicky feel. This is a very membrane-like feel on the D-pad. But I do like the way the face buttons feel. And we've got kind of a generic close and open button here. So this will close the screen, pop it back open, close the screen, pop it back open. It's just like a quick shortcut for that. It's kind of nice. There's a keyboard button here, a turbo button. It feels good to press these. They're just like a normal membrane, but again, I really like the way they feel. The joysticks also feel good. They have that ring around the edge. A nice little snapback. They don't have a lot of room like some of the other consoles do. Like there's not a lot of movement before you hit the edge. And I did put some joystick caps on it. I felt like that was a lot better of an experience for me. It just gives me a little bit more control and precision with those higher cap points. And these are just Joy-Con caps. So really easy to get these Skull & Co. grips. On the back side, there are no back buttons. There's these two buttons that you can actually program right here. And you can see that I've added some grips. And with the grips, it's just a little bit safer. It feels like for me, if you're holding onto this device, it's not as slippery. It gives you that extra little texture so that you're really able to grip it in a good spot. And so I like using these little grips here. I'll leave a link to those in the description too if you want to pick some up. I'm not a big fan of the power button. It doesn't stick out at all, so it kind of feels like, did I press the power button when you hit it? The volume up and down rocker, those are good. They stick out. It's easy to know if you're pressing it or not. But again, like the power button is just, it's recessed. It doesn't really feel like you've hit the button. So it would be nice to be able to feel it a little bit more when you hit that. You also have a headphone jack, and we've got another Thunderbolt 4 port, and then the USB port. I really like having that extra USB port, and then the two Thunderbolt 4 ports. This would be absolutely a great layout for all the ports if we just had an Oculink port too. And I say that just because I have an eGPU for the Onexgpu 1 and 2. And so having that Oculink port would just give me that extra boost with this device for those eGPUs. If you don't have an eGPU or an eGPU with an Oculink, not a big deal. But if you do, then it is really nice to have that extra port. So I imagine we'll probably see that on a Onexfly 2 version, and that would be pretty cool. All right, so the closest comparison you're probably wondering is the Ally X. So here's an Ally X, and here is the Onexfly. Now you've got the OLED display on here, 1080p 144 hertz. And then we've got a 1080p VRR 120 hertz display on here. I do have a matte screen protector on the ROG Ally. And then there's a clear glass screen protector on the screen of the Onexfly. So when you look at the colors, you can see right away, the blacks are a pure black on the OLED panel, and the reds are very vivid red. Like you're gonna get better colors on the OLED screen. It also goes brighter. So this is at maximum brightness. If you are playing outside in the daylight, the higher brightness will be nicer for actually gaming outside. It is similar in terms of screen size to the Ally X, but it is a smaller device. So when you match them up side by side, you can see that it is a compact form factor against the Ally X. So if you want something a little bit smaller than that, then this is going to fit the bill for that. Of course, I've got a modded backplate on this one, but you can see right away from the size difference that you are getting a more compact unit. In terms of the actual grip, it is a little more dominant on the Onexfly, and I say that because it is more rounded, like it goes further than this more aggressive peak on the Ally X. I do actually like the feel of the Onexfly more from like a grip standpoint in my hands, and playing like Final Fantasy 7 in the last few days here, I've put lots of hours on this thing with that game, and the joysticks just feel so good for a game like that. Now, from a shooter standpoint, I couldn't really tell you on that. I'm so bad with a controller on a game like Call of Duty So I can't really give you any feedback on what that felt like because I didn't try it. I'd be so bad I wouldn't be able to get into a match. But from using it on like an RPG like that, it was amazing. And if you look at my Final Fantasy VII video, I did like the piano mini game on there. And this is the best controller that I've had for that game. It's like I'm a pro playing that piano on this console compared to the Ally X. Like I can't even play it on the Ally X. And I have upgraded tighter sticks on here, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't work so well on this. So for the RPG standpoint, I really like this for that. Now let's compare it to a couple of other devices. So something else that you might have is a Switch OLED. And if you've got a Switch OLED, the screen is basically identical in size. And from a lengthwise, it's, again, almost identical. It's just a little bit wider. It's double the width of a Nintendo Switch. But again, if you want a size comparison, that'll give you a really close match. Again, other side of having those extra thick grips. But if you had some thick grips on the back of your Joy-Cons, you'd be pretty close in size, aside from the thickness, because it is double the size. Now, maybe you're looking at the Onexplayer X1 Pro, because you want that 370 chip. So from a size comparison, this is the size of the X1 from Onexplayer versus the Onexfly. So it's a pretty big difference. So this is what I'm used to playing on all the time, is the X1. It's my favorite handheld. It's been my favorite handheld for quite a while now. And it's still my favorite handheld, even though it's the Intel version. I wish it was an AMD version. That would be great. I love the form factor of the X1. From the width, this is almost double on the Onexfly, but this thing is literally double the size in general from this device. So if you're looking at something a little bit bigger, this is going to be a lot bigger. This is going to like a Switch OLED versus an iPad with controllers. It's a big difference. But from a compact standpoint, again, this feels really great. Now, one more size comparison. So this is the X1 Mini 8840U. And from a thickness, it's very similar. From the overall size, again, the Onexfly is quite a bit smaller. But again, the width is very similar. And the length is just quite a bit smaller. But of course, you can pull these off, and that makes it a little bit more compact if you need to travel with it. Now, going into actual performance and how this is done in the last week, I was seeing better performance on the Ally X before I made a couple changes. And that was really just trying to figure out what optimizations I needed to do in order to make this run better and how it would perform if I hadn't done those optimizations. So I do have an optimization video for AMD handhelds. I'll link that in the description. But after doing some of those changes on here, I noticed a big difference from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Even if you look at the video that I did, in the description, I actually have a couple updates of some settings that I was using that made it better. And then just again, the optimization of the handheld made the performance better. So the HX-370 is definitely a little bit more sensitive to those optimizations than the Ally X is. Now, I've done those same optimizations on the Ally X. So when you compare the two of them, this is getting better, and this one will continue to have optimizations with drivers and things like that. The 780M has been out for a while now, and so it has a lot of those optimizations already. The 890M, which is the iGPU in this device, hasn't been out for a long time yet, so we're going to see some more optimizations and this thing to continue to improve throughout the year as those continue to come out from AMD. With the Onexplayer app, something that I would like to see is in the VRAM, I would like to see a setting in between the 8 gig and the 16 gig, because that's a huge jump when you have 32 gigs of total. If you had a 64, it wouldn't be a big deal. But if you have only 32, it would be nice to have a 10 and a 12. That would be great. Even a 14 would be all right, but just to have a couple more options in there for the VRAM settings. And because the speakers are at the very bottom, the sound coming out is quieter. So if you have a Legion Go, it's kind of similar to that kind of sound quality versus having the Ally X where you have front-facing speakers and the sound is nice and clear and loud and more immersive. So something you can do to make that better, and again, this is in the optimization video, is download the FX Sound app from the Windows Store, and that's going to boost your audio right away, and it makes a pretty big difference. So if you want to improve your speakers and you have one of these devices already, that's going to help you out right away. Even some grip options, like how the Ally X has, like to have some extra grip options for the Onexfly. I really think that would be a great opportunity for Onexplayer to have that. I would definitely add that to my package if I was picking up one of these and I could get just like a custom mold, nice grip case for it. I would definitely pick that up. So something to think about, Onexplayer, is if you can make some sort of molded shells for some of your devices like this, that would be awesome. If you're wondering what kind of case you can use for this device, the Skull & Co. Ally X case actually does work quite nicely. So just to give you an example of what that looks like, you can seal it in, and it fits, again, quite nice in there. So if you're looking for a case as a good option, you can use that Ally Skull & Co. case. Overall, again, I have had a really great time with this device. It feels premium. The buttons feel nice again. The grip feels good. I look forward to seeing the next iteration of this, especially with those special edition Ava units. You got to bring those out to North America to be able to purchase out in the US and Canada. Like, those are just so awesome. I would have definitely picked one of those editions up if it was available to North America, and that would have been really cool. It is a very expensive device, especially if you're in Canada. The currency exchange from the US is crazy right now. So if you're in Canada, this is around $1,900 Canadian. There is a sale right now for this device, the Onexfly F1 Pro and the X1 Pro, both with the HX-370 chips. And you can find some discounts on the Discord if you're part of that. I can leave the Discord link in the description below. And then you can join that, check out the promotions tab, and there's a link to some of the sales that are going on right now. But you are going to pay more for a device like this. These are devices where Onexplayer is getting these kinds of chips before the Lenovo Legion Go, before the Ally X, and those kind of mainstream devices. So if you want to get your hands on a device with the newest chips, this is a great option for that. And again, a premium feel. It does feel more premium than the Ally X. It does have a little bit of weight to it. It feels like a solid, good quality device. So let's go into some benchmarking. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a Cyberpunk benchmark on 1080p high using the same settings with the Ally X versus the Onexfly. So let's cut to that. All right, let's run through the settings quick. So I have windowed borderless, 1080p, and then I have it custom to high, and then I have scaling turned off, frame gen turned off, and we can go ahead and run the benchmark. For the Onexplayer console, I have it at 30 watts TDP, and then turbo is turned off. So we have an average of 30.56 with the Onexfly. Now let's flip over to the Ally X real quick. I'll show you what the score was on that, and then we'll come right back. And here's a quick flash up of the Ally X using the same settings. So 1080p, high, 30 watt TDP, no CPU boost on, and that's with the 780M graphics card. And you can see that we're getting an average of 27.11 FPS versus what the Onexfly was getting. So we have about a 10% increase on the actual performance with the Onexfly over the Ally X. And again, this is after the optimizations that I did. Core isolation was probably the biggest one for disabling that. And again, that's on the video that I've linked in the description for optimizing your AMD handhelds. And that's going to make a huge difference if you decide to pick up one of these devices. Overall, though, I do really like the Onexfly. It's a really neat device. It's very compact compared to some of the other devices on the market. But again, it does feel premium. And if you are going to pick one of these up, just know that you're going to pay that premium price tag for one of these. And if you pick up an 8840U version or a 7840U version, you're still going to have a really good time because it's the same device. It's just a different chipset on the inside. If you're pairing this with an eGPU, the Onexgpu 2 works great with it. The drivers are all the actual regular AMD drivers, not like the Z1 Extreme devices where you have to sideload the regular drivers in order to get it to work together with an eGPU. So it works great out of the box with an eGPU. If you need help with that, leave me a comment down below. I'm happy to help you sort that out and getting those devices working together. But that's going to be it for today. Thanks everybody for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and take care till the next one.